The Brooklyn Nets started the 2020-2021 season hotter than Game 6 clay. Well, I don't know if they were that hot, but you get the idea. They blazed through the Golden State Warriors and followed that up by completely dismantling the Boston Celtics. The first win was somewhat of a shock based on the point spread, but nevertheless, the results were within reasonable expectations considering where most media has the Golden State Warriors ranked this year. The second game versus the Boston Celtics had everyone calling this Nets team unstoppable and the team to beat. The Nets, having been a playoff team without Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, did in fact seem to be unstoppable with this duo. How are you supposed to beat a team that blew out the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics? Their third game against the Charlotte Hornets came, and the world held its breath for the ensuing onslaught in the absolute firestorm that would rage and smoke the Hornets' nest. Only that didn't happen. Here is what actually happened. But before that, let's get to that intro. Hey everyone, what's happening? This is Swish, and today I wanted to talk about the biggest weakness of the Brooklyn Nets and why they lost to the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets are a projected fringe lottery team in the midst of a quick rebuild. They recently acquired some talent with the third pick in this year's draft in LaMelo Ball and signed free agent Gordon Hayward to a cool $120 million contract. Following last year's trip to the lottery, and despite adding this talent to their roster, after their first two games, the Hornets seemed poised to take a trip down memory lane and make yet another showing in the lottery this year. They are coming fresh off two losses to projected lottery teams in the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Their backcourt consists of two sharpshooters in Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham, but small backcourts have oftentimes come up short when it really matters. And the duo of Graham and Rozier at 6'1" make up an even smaller backcourt than small backcourts. They do have some athletic wings in Miles Bridges and PJ Washington. However, these guys may play the forward positions or even center when running alongside the Martin brothers in a small ball setting. This team is currently trying to find its new identity as new franchise point guard LaMelo Ball comes off the bench. Meanwhile, last year's staples in Graham and Rozier get the nod to start. The Nets, on the other hand, are a very talented team from top to bottom. Their starting five consists of Kevin Durant, arguably the best player on the planet, championship caliber and all-star point guard with the best handles and a money shot, Kyrie Irving, winner of the NBA three-point shooting contest in Joe Harris, all-star center DeAndre Jordan, and Spencer Dinwiddie, the man that led the Nets to last year's playoffs in the absence of Kyrie Irving and isn't afraid to come up big in the moment. Just based on resume alone, this team could give nightmares to your average opponent. Back that up with the fact that they come out firing on all cylinders, easily dismantled KD's former team, the Warriors, and made light work of the uber-talented Boston Celtics. There's no question they became instant favorites to win, if not the most feared team in the league. Well, all that may have changed by the end of the game with the Charlotte Hornets, as the North Carolina team stood their ground from the tip and demanded respect. What happened after was the dogfight of the century as both teams tried to contain each other. Things got very physical as players bullied their way into the paint, not shying away from contact. There were not too many bailout threes, as this game was more like what you would see if you popped in a tape to watch some MJ reruns. Because of how physical this game was,
everybody was kung fu fighting.
Both teams were winded, however, as the three-point attempts that you did see were very wide open shots. The shots were falling for the Hornets, and they took advantage, running up the deficit on Brooklyn to the tune of 16 points by the middle of the fourth quarter. As time wound down, however, the Nets were not going to take this lying down and made a late quarter surge as guys connected on layups and a three, wiping away what could have otherwise been considered a blowout down to a single possession game. The Hornets managed to fend off the surge by the Nets, and at the sound of the buzzer, managed to clinch a win against the seemingly unbeatable Brooklyn Nets. No one, but absolutely no one, saw this coming. But wait a minute. How did this happen? You see, as strong as this Brooklyn team is, they have a very obvious weakness. It is so obvious, in fact, that if you haven't figured it out up to this point, you will surely know by the end of this video. Let's review some of these clips of the Hornets scoring. How are they able to get these buckets and somehow manage to keep the Nets from scoring? The Nets, matchup for matchup, are a much more talented team, yet they still somehow ended up losing, despite both KD and Kyrie being on the floor for 36 minutes each. The Hornets keep finding the basket, play after play, and somehow not only manage to stay in the game, but convincingly beat the Brooklyn Nets. It all started with this one play. This is 6 1 inch tall Terry Rozier. And what Rozier is about to do will change the entire course and momentum of the game. Once Kevin Durant got put on a poster by 6'1" Terry Rozier, the entire momentum of the game changed. Now, dunking on Kevin Durant doesn't make you automatically win a game, but it certainly helps. It helps even more so if you're 6'1" and there's media involved. If you aren't aware, Kevin Durant doesn't have the best relationship with his perceived social media persona. But what does this have to do with it? More on that in a second. Kevin Durant's partner in crime, Kyrie Irving, has a similar net negative relationship with the media. Both players can't help themselves when it comes to their perception, as many of us may already be aware. We are also well aware that there is skewing of personas when viewed through the lens of the free press. As a basketball player, it is also a part of the contract you signed that you will speak to the media. So what happens when these two things mix? When people become personally affected by things outside of their control, it has the ability to wear you down mentally. If you are constantly the subject of attention and you can't handle the negativity that comes with it, you are in for a shock. While the Nets team had all the talent, they were worn down physically by the Hornets, who used their athleticism to their advantage. They played very physical against KD and Kyrie, forcing the two to take low percentage shots. Once the Hornets were able to solidify this playing style, this allowed them to get inside the heads of the Nets' star players. In doing so, they were able to pick the Brooklyn Nets apart as they lost their confidence. It took some time, but the Nets were in a tough position of losing to a lottery team, whom they had no answer for. Physically worn and exhausted, it took the Nets some time before they eventually managed to pull themselves back together, to launch a last-minute ditch effort to retain control of the game. It was, however, too little, too late. The Hornets already had their foot on the Nets' necks, and tick by tick, time ran out. The Nets had lost to a team that lost to two of the projected worst teams in the league, and was a projected lottery team themselves. Now everyone knows that the Nets are not invincible, and with the right balance of mindset, personnel, and team DNA, this formerly unstoppable team can in fact be beat. Well, that's it for tonight. I'll be putting out more NBA content and diversifying a bit to include topics beyond the Warriors, such as this. So thank you guys for checking out my video. If you liked it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment so I know what you think of the video, and if you subbed, welcome to the channel, and hope you stick around and watch your growth. Till next time.
A block so hard, Smitty gets served. Call me Lonzo Ball, bitches get swerved.
Usually I don't get down with these girls, but tonight it's on my mind. so I might eat these words. I just wanna